evening.
We'll have the meeting started at 6:04 PM. And City Clerk, can we please have roll call?
Council members, directors Elias, Camacho, Lara, Lutz,
Here.
Mayor, Chairman, Dr. Sanchez,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. Let's get started with our invocation. I would like to lead us in our prayer today, if you can please stand. Given that today is Election Day, I would like to lead us saying, God, you have entrusted special men and women with the job of leading the nation and cities of this world. Please bless them and us. May we always turn to you as your source, as a source of wisdom in difficult decisions. May they be people dedicated to unity and respect for all. May we strive for justice, and above all, may our leadership be reflection of service to others, especially to those who are poor or forgotten. Amen.
May we all turn and face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. City Manager, do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
No changes.
Thank you. First, we'll start out with our public comment. We have two individuals that submitted cards. We have Mr. Jose Sanchez regarding item number 5. Yes. Oh, is that part of our,
You got 2 items of public hearings, right?
says on here regarding item number 5 of the consent calendar.
Correct.
That's fine with. Yeah, on item number 5, just the last meeting, the conditional use permit was approved for the warehouse. And now we're going through the process of changing the zoning from commercial to industrial. The developer basically had a hook building, which is the print shop, to get the site. It's on, right? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so they had the print shop, which is about 0.5% of the total area of the warehouse. So the developer didn't provide any information as to what kind of businesses are going to be at the site. And the concern, for me at least, it comes in terms of now changing it from commercial to industrial. And what does that actually mean? I don't understand it. I don't know it, so I'm kind of posing it as questions, basically. To me, it simply means, at least in my interpretation, is now they can bring in whatever material they want. It's a warehouse. I don't know how the city tracks the materials that come in as the new businesses start to populate the site. You may have toxic, you may have flammable, you may have explosive. Those are all part of industrial kind of components. So how does the city track it? If a fire starts, there's only one access to the site. That's the road that the developer is building to get access to the site. So if that's blocked, then what happens? If all of the smoke that's created if a fire starts and you have the Santa Anas going on, that's going to blow right into us, into the city. What happens? So I don't know if the city did any studies or the developer did any studies on that. If they did, I would really like to have a copy of it, and I don't know who I can talk to about that. And if they didn't, shouldn't that have been part of the study for getting the site and then turning it from commercial to industrial? So that's basically what my concerns are. And that's about it. So if there's a study that it's already been done to address those kinds of issues, I'd appreciate any kind of information you have. The city has my email, so if not, I can come and pick it up myself. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have another card here. I'm not sure if the individuals are here. Samuel and Manuel. No, they're not here. But I would like to say thank you. They are 2 boys from the El Rancho wrestling team, and they came by to bring by a spaghetti dinner for us when we're done. So we want to say thank you very much to the young gentlemen that came by to think of food for us, because we haven't eaten dinner yet. Do we have anyone on Zoom? Yes, okay.
Mayor, City Council, we have 1 speaker on Zoom, and the first speaker is Lauren Talbot.
Hi,
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Lauren Talbot, and I'm the Community Library Manager at Pico Rivera Library and Rivera Library. Here are our library updates. In collaboration with Baby to Baby and Supervisor Hilda Solis, Pico Rivera Library is distributing diapers in sizes 1 through 6 for free to families. In collaboration with Happy Period, we're also offering free pads and tampons. All items can be picked up at the Pico Rivera Library during our regular hours. Both Pico Rivera Library and Rivera Library will be closed this Friday for Veterans Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any email correspondence? None? Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to our public hearing. City Attorney, can you lead us into that?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. The first item under public hearings is the consideration of a resolution authorizing and adopting the Permanent Local Housing Allocation Plan for the Permanent Local Housing Allocation Program. It's appropriate then at this point in time for the public hearing to be open. The report is the agenda item that's before you. Unless there's any questions from the City Council, it's appropriate to open the public hearing and receive public comment.
Do we have any comment from the public? None? Do we have any
No
questions from the
public, then it would
council?
be appropriate to close the public hearing.
Okay.
And bring it back up to the council level for consideration of approving the resolution as presented.
Yes. Any questions or comments from the council?
Move as recommended.
Make a second.
Okay. Let's do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Elias. Councilmember Camacho.
Yes.
Councilmember Lara.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lutz.
Yes.
Mayor Dr. Sanchez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We have a second item for public hearing.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, the second public hearing item is consideration of the adoption of the 2022 California Building Code amendments for Title 15. At this point in time, the item is presented by the city manager in the written staff report. If there are no questions of the City Council, it's appropriate to open the matter for public comment and inquire whether there's any members of the public that wish to address this item.
Do we have any members of the public?
There is none.
None?
With that, it's appropriate then for the public hearing to be closed and bring it back up to the council level for consideration.
So move as recommended.
Make a second.
Okay. Let's do a quick roll call.
Councilmember Elias. Councilmember Camacho. Councilmember Lara.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lutz.
Yes.
Mayor Dr. Sanchez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move on to our consent calendar, items number 3 through 15.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to pull item 10.
Item number 10. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve items 1 through 10, or 1 through 15.
3 through. Yes.
Item 6?
Pulling items number 6 and 10. Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to make the motion to approve all other items besides? Oh,
I'd like to make the motion to approve items 3 through 15.
got it.
Second.
All in favor, we'll do roll call. 3 through 15, except for 10 or 17.
6 and 10.
10,
10.
And 16 and 17, something separate?
yes.
Okay.
Councilmembers Elias.
Yes, number 6.
Oh, we're voting, first we're voting on items number 3 through 15 minus
Yes.
6 and 10.
This is the approval of the consent agenda with the exception of the 2 items.
Correct. And I believe the consent calendar goes through item 17. It includes the successor agency.
Yes,
We-
I think that's correct.
Do we have a
So at this point in
presentation?
time, the motion before the council is the approval of the consent agenda, items 3 through 17, with the exceptions of item 6 and item 10.
Got it.
And that's been seconded and be the roll call vote from the city clerk.
Councilmember Elias. Councilmember Camacho.
Yes.
Councilmember Lara.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lutz.
Yes.
Mayor Dr. Sanchez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, let's discuss item number 6 first.
Yes. What is the significance of placing Beverly, that 9003 Beverly as surplus land? What is the significance of that?
This was property that we acquired because of the Metro Hotspot program. This is part of a process that we'd like to eventually develop this property. We have to comply with the state law, so we have to declare it surplus. After it's declared surplus, we have to offer it to housing developers, affordable developers, if there's any interest that they may have. If there's no interest, then we may sell the property to a private developer.
So it gives you the ability to be able to, or gives the city?
Gives the city the ability to eventually sell the property.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Madam Mayor, I have a question for our city manager. And when do we anticipate to offer up the property?
There's a statutory time period that we have to offer it up. I believe that's 30 days, Julia? 60 days. And if there are no takers, then we can take back the property and then offer it out to the private development community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve item 6 as is.
Second.
Yep, okay, thank you. Let's do roll call.
Councilmember Elias? Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lutz?
Yes.
Mayor Dr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, let's move on to item number 10. Discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I pulled item number 10. I see that Lacomilco, Jalisco, Mexico has been requested by Councilmember Camacho and seconded by Councilmember Lara to be our sister city. I think a sister city commission would be great. I would love to have participation of all 5 of us in the selection of a sister city. So if I can make the motion that we hold this off until January and we see the benefits for our community, more specifically our community members, and how it benefits our residents, being a sister city commission with specifically Lacomilco, Jalisco, Mexico. I can think of a lot of others, right? But let's all agree as a team, all 5 of us. And again, I'd like to make the motion that we hold this off until January.
I can provide an update on that before we have a motion. If I may, we already have an existing commission in place, and each one of us are available to select a commissioner, similar to our Veterans Commission, Planning Commission, and Parks and Rec Commission. So it has been inactive since the pandemic. There have been no commissioners that were appointed by any of us. So I think we could reinstate the commissioners. It is our choice. Each one of us can select a commissioner and reinstate the commission. And that could be in the January meeting. This was brought forward in part due to the gentleman, the owner of the De La Rosas factory that donated the Big Bell to the city. He is the largest exporter of those dulces de la Rosas, and it was kind of a push for the economic development. So we wanted to do something this year to kind of recognize his generosity, and he's come here before. It's part of the development and potentially even looking at our warehouse spaces and see how we can be part of his large business. So that's part of, I believe, the history of this. But I agree to, let's reinstate our sister city commission, and we can potentially have Asia, cities in Asia, Armenia. We have Armenian neighbors that we work with, and definitely not excluding only Mexico. I think traditionally in the past, we have San Luis Potosí was the first, and then Mazatlan. And that's because residents had family members there and they had contact. But I think reinstating the commission will help us to have more of a connection with that. Yeah.
Madam Mayor, just to comment in support of Mayor Pro Tem's extension of it. Speaking from experience, with the sister city, we had a situation where the guidelines were not very clear or specific in terms of the objectives that we had for the sister city. So we found ourselves in a situation where we were criticized for, the fact that people were using it just to go back and do leisurely items. Again, that was part of the criticism because there was a lack of a statement, a lack of a goal, okay? And actually, an entire strategy in terms of the sister city situation. There were not sufficient guidelines to govern the commission, or again, even the situation as we're talking about, you're talking about economic development now, okay? But again, there was a purely a cultural emphasis in the first sister city. And obviously that didn't benefit us. All it does was create wasted resources. So I would support Mayor Pro Tem's of extending it until we get specific items in writing, okay, as to what the objective is and a clear strategy as to what we intend to do.
And in terms of resources, I believe there's currently no budgeted items. There was no payment for any travel, at least in my past 3 years. So I believe the assistant city manager can correct me if I'm wrong, but the city does not pay for any leisure, any travel to any of these cities for them to come here, us to go over there, correct? At least in the past 3 or 4 years, in my terms that I know.
We don't have a budget for that.
Right. So, Councilmember Camacho.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when you hear folks talking about that resources have been used. From my understanding, I have much more experience in this, is that there's never been city resources used to travel to Mexico. There's always been everyone pay on their own terms when there's an exchange. There's been a great relationship with San Luis Potosí over the years, and Mazatlan now. And the Sister City Commission has been involved. Unfortunately, it was inactive on the basis that there was no interest from other previous members to appoint someone. But I think in the situation of this particular Tlajomulco, is the city, it's based near Zapopan and near Guadalajara, which Zapopan happens to be basically the Silicon Valley of Mexico in the state of Jalisco, as it is Silicon Valley for the state of California. So there's a lot of economic opportunity. There's been discussions and had the opportunity to actually the president has visited Pico Rivera already, and for those, everyone was invited to partake in those conversations and meetings. There's been some conversations as well, as you stated, Mayor. I think this is an opportunity not only from the culture exchange, which was, as stated right here, based on President Eisenhower's approach to sister cities was to build cultural awareness and relationships, but also educational opportunities. But I believe that the economic and the commerce that can be beneficial to both communities, I think it's there. I think it's been looked at, and I do believe we should move forward. In addition to, sometimes we won't always agree with the cities that we choose to be sister cities with. However, I think this is a great opportunity for us in the city of Pico Rivera to build a relationship with a city that is almost, even though it says 727,000 people, I understand it's larger than that, much larger city than the city of Pico Rivera, much greater economic power than it is the city of Pico Rivera. So I think there's an opportunity, especially when they're reaching out to us to become sister cities. So I think we should move forward and begin to build a relationship with them. And I think this is a great opportunity for our community, the city of Pico Rivera, both the residents and the business community.
Yes, Councilmember Lara?
Yes, I do want to clarify, I want to underline the fact that we're a team. And if we're going to create commissioners, each one to select a commissioner, that we sit down and we look at the benefits, all 5 of us collectively, whether it's a study session, and we decide on this specific city and the benefits that it brings to our community. Oftentimes, sister city commissions are created, and of course, it's that cultural benefit that goes back and forth. But I'm looking at it to be two-pronged. I want it to be a cultural benefit and beneficial for both cities, but I also want it to be an economic benefit. And that's not too much to ask for. But mainly, the most important point is that we're all participating in the selection of the city rather than being provided the information at a city council meeting. It's always best that we're all informed ahead of time as one unit. So again, we're not opposed to this particular city, but I am suggesting that we motion again that we have this selection of city in January until all of us are informed on that this is the best city to have. Can I have a second?
Councilmember Lara.
Yes, thank you. I think it's important that we start to branch out. I know we've established multiple sister cities in the past. My biggest disappointment is that we have yet to reestablish our sister city commission. Multiple members from past commissions have come up to me and said, "Do you support that?" Without a doubt, 110%. And I look forward on maybe, one of I think our goals should be early next year as we establish that commission. Each one of us appoints commissioners so that not only do we have a cultural exchange, but we have economic development, economic goals, and it just broadens the horizon. When you look at the United States or when you look at the state of California, they just don't partner with one country or one city. There's multiple cities. So this is a good start. I support this. But I do agree that in the coming year, when we talk about the commission, we do establish our goals. But those are goals for all the cities that we're going to partner with. So thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this item.
Do we have a second?
Madam Mayor, we first have to honor the first motion before we go into the second motion.
Well, we need a second for the subsequent motion.
Do we have a second on the first motion?
Point of
Yeah, second.
clarification, point of
Second was provided by Councilmember.
clarification, Mayor. Since it's the agenda as recommended, isn't that already a motion on the table first? Mr. City Attorney?
No, we have a first by our Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember here, and then we have a subsequent motion by Camacho, seconded by Councilmember Lara. So now I'm going to do a roll call vote for the subsequent motion first, which is the motion to approve as recommended by the city. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So the substitute motion from Councilmember Camacho, seconded by Councilmember Lara, is to approve the item before you.
Yes.
And that's the motion on the floor.
Yes, roll call vote for the subsequent motion.
Councilmember Elias,
I vote no, because there was no discussion on this city prior to this being placed on the agenda.
Councilmember Camacho,
Yes.
Councilmember Lara,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lutz,
No.
Mayor Dr. Sanchez.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
Thank you. And I would like to direct the staff to reestablish our sister city per Mayor Pro Tem's recommendations. Like, let's discuss what is our goal, other future cities, and then we'll begin the process to identify commissioners in the coming meetings.
Madam Mayor, if I would like to comment simply, is it not best policy and practice to establish framework rather than pushing forward an agenda item without the consensus of the entire council? I feel that this was done without all the council members being informed. And if we're all in agreement to lay the framework for a commission and commissions that we're going to have in the upcoming 2023 year, why wouldn't it be best to hold off on this item until we lay the framework?
I understand your feelings. However, you should have received the preliminary agenda even before it came out by the city clerk.
Yes.
So should you have any concerns, the protocol is you can discuss that with the city manager, myself as well. And also, the Sister City Commission already has existed since, I don't know the year off the top of my head. So it's not like we are just creating this and throwing a new city in. We already have Mazatlan, which has really been inactive. It's still sitting there. This is a new one that we're going to add on, which I think it's great. We already have San Luis Potosí, and they've been waiting as well. So I think it's great that we're going to have sister cities, and we really just need to get our commissioners on board and and let's get the ball rolling instead of
Thank you.
waiting. So that's my opinion. Thank you. And what's next on our agenda? Item number 18, regular item.
Yes, Mayor, item number 18 is our first quarter budget report. We do have a staff report if council would like to hear it. Mayor, we do have a staff report if yes, you want to
Yes.
hear, okay.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. I think this will be my last hurrah presenting your finance first quarter presentation. Afterwards, I'll hand it off to your new Director of Administrative Services, Jane, so she's indulging me in this. So I will present to you the first
I
quarter.
thought you were going to tell us you're leaving too.
No, I like it here. No.
Congratulations,
So this is
Jane.
for the
Thank
first
you.
quarter for the period of July through September of 2022. As you'll see, as is customary with the first quarter review, you'll see revenues are not up there yet with expenditures simply because of the nature of our revenues and when they flow in. Just as a reminder, this is the budget in brief that is posted on the website. You should have received this brochure just to be able to give a snapshot to City Council and to the community as to where we obtain our revenue sources from and how we spend them for this next year. Here we have a look at the first quarter revenues, and so we see that for the first quarter we've actualized 5.1 million in revenues, and compared to last year, that is still a 3% growth over the same period last year. Some items to point out is sales tax. We still see, despite inflationary pressures, we still see sales tax increased year over year by 12%, as well as property tax and UUT. Property tax, this was probably the last full year that we're going to realize increases this strong. As you know, mortgage rates are around 7%, so that's kind of putting the pressure on home prices. So we'll probably see that the effects on property tax next year and next fiscal year. Utility users taxes, all the reports we have indicate increases of 20 to 30% in all the gas prices and thermoelectric energy. And so those are the biggest highlights next to charges for services. And as you know, the Rec Parks Department has reopened a lot of their services. So we have a lot more in charges for services there. So those are the big highlights for the revenues. Over on the expenditure side, as you remember, we approved an appropriations budget of 51.8 million, and that is for normal increases, also for the successor memorandums of understanding for the three labor groups, SEIU, CEA, and Directors Unit. So those are factored in there, as well as the increase in headcount. Additionally, we did experience a $1 million increase in our pension obligation. That is the pay-as-you-go that we pay in July of every year. And I think other than that, it's just the normal general liability and group health rates going up a little bit. As you see, we have a transfer out of 2.9 million, almost 3 million. Those are the regular transfers, as well as you recall, City Council approved a general fund year-end surplus designation towards economic development of almost $2 million. So that is factored in those numbers. There's a snapshot of expenditures compared to the prior year. And you see the largest spike is non-department, as that is where we house the PERS pension obligation payment. As you see, the increase in headcount is also a slight uptick in almost every department. And here you see revenues to expenditures. And yes, the revenues to expenditures look a little low, but that is because of the bulk of the revenues will be realized in the second and third quarter of this fiscal year. Here's a little snapshot, total revenues prior year, prior first quarter to current first quarter in red, and you see just a tiny little 3% increase. And that is partially also related to the inflation rate that we are experiencing right now. To the right-hand side, you have expenditures compared to the same period last year. And so you see the expenditure growth of 1.5 million, primarily due to the reasons mentioned, the CalPERS rate continuing to increase and an uptick in the labor. We also wanted to address a budget adjustment in the related to some water expenditures. So because we were able to secure a grant or a few grants related to the PFAS project, we are able to release some of the ARPA funds that relate to this specific water project and actually dedicate them to a different water project for the water pipe refurbishment and replacement. So it is proper through the resolution for appropriations for us to list this adjustment for you to approve.
Thank you. I have a question. I get this question sometimes. Why did we have to raise the water rates, the percentage, when we got these grants to offset our cost? Is there a way that we could show the savings, over a period of time, maybe over the year, the cost savings that we received by just receiving this grant, and why we have to give increased periodic water rates?
Yes, we can certainly do that, and I'll go back to a couple of years ago when we presented the water rates, or I guess it was just maybe 18 months ago when we came before council to present the water rates. The process of increasing water rates stemmed from a very comprehensive water master plan that was developed by the Public Works Department. That gave us a 15-year inventory of all of the capital assets in the water department that we needed to replace or refurbish. We then took those 15 years, and because we knew that we couldn't raise rates sufficiently to be able to support all of the funding for all those 15 years, we took a shorter time frame approach and actually developed a financial plan that called for 10% increases for the next 5 years to be able to pay for the next 5 years worth of capital projects. Now, back then, we did not have those grants in those amounts from the Water Replenishment District or from the ARPA. So, but because we have an inventory of 15 years worth of items that we do need to finish, we still have the need for that, for those water rates, because there are more needs than there is funding. So we can bring back a plan to show you, where we're spending those grants and the fallout, what we're dedicating that water, excess water cash to projects. So we can certainly do that.
And is that in part due to delayed infrastructure, we hadn't raised water rates prior to how long before that?
Yes, so there was a period of, I think it was 17 years raising rates, and then, maybe because of the economic climate, there were no rate increases. So there were gaps, right? There were gaps that we needed to account for, and those we feel that we leveled off with the 10% rate increases over the next few years.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. That it's been my desire that actually rate increases come before council a little bit more frequently than what they have in the past. If I remember correctly, the last time this council raised water rates was about 10, 12 years ago.
Yes.
And when you go that long of a distance without raising rates, you have to catch up. And then you have sticker shock with our customers. And then we got to raise rates double digits. Whereas if we were to raise rates as needed, if council within that 10 years would have raised rates every 4 years, then you're raising them incrementally, maybe 3-4 percentage clips at a time. So you don't have that sticker shock, and then you have adjustments. So it would be my desire that these items come before us actually more frequently. I get it, they're not politically the best thing to do, but in my opinion, it's the best thing for the customers that we do this, and we stay on top of our water rates, we stay on top of our infrastructure.
And we won't have to raise the rates, correct? Did we do it for 3 years or 5-year incremental?
So there's a 10% over the next 5 years, or the remaining 3 years, because we've already done 2. Subsequent to that, it is a CPI, normal CPI growth.
Thank you. Councilmember Laura,
Madam Mayor, thank you. I do have a question for, whoever would have the answer to it. Our automatic water meters are anticipated to come when?
So they're starting on I think they selected a vendor. I think, if I may speak for the Public Works Department, that is scheduled to come online by the end of the next fiscal year.
Thank you.
thank you. Sorry, continue.
And so touching on the enterprise funds, the water fund being one of them, we have 3 enterprise funds here before you: the water fund, the prime fund for our green energy, and our golf course. So the water operations, it does include water capital asset replacement in those numbers, as well as primarily our water personnel costs. Over on the prime side, the revenues over expenditures include the increase set by the CPUC, approved by this council last year. The golf course includes a scaled down operations, but as you can see here, it's almost netting to zero. On the sports arena side, as things continue to reopen and experience full years of reopening here, we see the results of that and are happy to report an actual surplus for the first quarter.
Awesome, thank you.
That concludes my presentation. I welcome any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any further questions from the council? None?
One question here. It looks like your administrative cost on your budget here, it's going to be about 10% of what the entire budget is, huh? Administrative cost?
I'm sorry, sir, for the general fund or for a specific?
Yes, for the general fund.
The general fund, usually, because we are a service-based entity, usually administrative or personnel costs are anywhere from 40 to 70%. So it's higher than 10%. If we're talking about the administration budget, that would probably be.
So it's higher than it's listed here?
I'm sorry?
Because it's listed here as 513,000?
I'm sorry, can you direct me to the page?
For the entire budget, the administrative services, let's see, okay, on page 4?
Oh, yes, 513,000.
Yes.
Administrative services is your finance and your IT budget. So for the first quarter, we've already realized $513,000.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. We don't have city manager report. Was that part of the report?
None, Mayor.
Madam Mayor, we need to vote on the last.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve, item 18.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Motion passes. Thank you. Now we go to our good of the order. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, today's a very special day. It's Election Day, and I hope that everybody had the opportunity to vote and put their nice little "I voted" sticker. And those who haven't voted and you're watching us on TV, you still have time until 8 o'clock to go to the voting location, Smith Park and Pico Park, and I believe McGee Elementary. I do want to say that a good amount of us, council members, we had an opportunity to go out to the senior center for the Veterans Resource Center. And again, that was a collective effort that all of us on the council participated in. And I am really appreciative of that all of us, we geared together, and now that has come to fruition. Now we have a Veterans Resource Center and a Veterans Resource Officer, and none other than the individual who lives here in the city of Pico Rivera. So that's just fantastic for us. And veterans don't have to go to Wilshire, right? And the Wilshire corridor in West LA, don't have to go to Long Beach. They now can stay within the boundaries of their own city and go into a private office and handle matters that have to do with benefits that they may not be aware of, that are just waiting for them to utilize. And sometimes they go decades without realizing that they have these benefits. Now in Pico Rivera, our veterans, as well as in other municipalities, can come and make a specific appointment and take advantage of that opportunity. So I was elated to be amongst all our elected officials that we had there at that ceremony. And I want to give kudos to Councilmember Elias and our mayor for being a part of the ad hoc committee that brought that forth and moved it forward, and then the rest of the council members that pushed that forward. So thank you very much. And to our staff, our fantastic staff that always are doing great things. And so that's all for my new and old business.
Thank you. Councilmember Lara?
Okay, I just want to echo those sentiments. I think that was well said, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you to staff for putting that all together. That was nice. It was a nice event. My main concern is that we keep it going. I look forward to hiring, the city hires a part-time person to fill that spot, just so that there's someone there. It's one thing to leave a voice recording, but it's another thing to interact with the person. I want to thank, obviously, the council, staff, but the veterans, because they pushed us and they made sure that got done. I won't forget running for this seat for city council and being asked at the Veterans Forum, will you support a Veterans Resource Center? I said yes. I think we all said yes. And I'm glad that we can look back and say, mission accomplished in that sense. So thank you for everyone involved. Thank you to staff. I managed to attend Spooktacular, even though it seems like ages ago. The community had a blast. There was something there for everyone. And when I say everyone, is that you go, and if you want to compete in the costume section, there's that going on, right? There's costumes and there's judges. If you have little children, there's the slides. If you're into arts and crafts, there was that. If you're into food, there was that. There's plenty of candy. And then the games that were set up, and you received 2 tickets. Even if you didn't even win, you received 2 tickets. If you want something, you receive 3 tickets. But the games were designed so that little kids could win, older people could win, disabled people, because I played some of those games. I stood there, and I saw a wide variety of people. It wasn't a scam. You go to fairs and you play these games, and they're scams, right? It wasn't like that. And there were so many volunteers. It was just an amazing operation. Thank you to, city manager, staff, our director, Pam Ugar. Thank you so much, and everyone else involved. Lastly, there's something, personal project I'm trying to work on, trying to bring to our city, trying to collaborate with the school district. I managed to have a meeting with one of the school board members, Ms. Perez. We met with a business here in the city of Pico Rivera that specializes in e-gaming. And we hit it from both sides. My main goal is to bring coding to this community, beginning coding classes. I believe our children, I believe our younger adults, I believe our adults, we need exposure to coding because that's where the future is headed. So I met a gentleman who's a high school teacher at Mayfield, and he teaches coding. I didn't realize, but not only is there coding, but there's e-gaming. And e-gaming, games such as Mario Kart, Super Smash Brothers, League of Legends, they're CIF recognized in the state of California, meaning they're on the same level as football, basketball, wrestling. So when you look at some of these other schools, such as Harvard Westlake, St. John Bosco Tech, they have e-gaming teams that they compete on a state level for championships. Not only is that on a high school level, but there's also, when you go to college, you can get scholarships for e-gaming. So we talked about bringing that to El Rancho. We talked about, but see, that's the gateway, right? The flashy stuff is the video game, but the gateway is teaching students to make their own games. Storyboard production, project management, the coding of the game. You code your own game and then you publish it. And that market is leading towards cybersecurity. These jobs that are in need, that are well-paying. So that's something, we look forward to bringing to the school district. I need to reach out with Director Ugar and talk about, because this gentleman said he'd be happy to do a Roblox coding game for children for maybe summer school or winter session. And it's a fun way of introducing our children to some of this new technology that's taking place. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Elias.
Yes, and this is all in reference to old business here. Mr. City Manager, do you have anything on the breakdown over the $5 million in administrative costs for the golf course yet?
Councilmember, we do not at this time. We're actually working on it. It's a task that takes longer than an hour. I'm not looking for council direction on that, but we are actually working on it, and we should have something maybe at the next meeting, but I'll have to check with staff.
Okay, so we're talking about next meeting?
I'm going to check in with staff again, just to make sure. I think when we do bring something back, there'll be a realization that some of the figures that were quoted, it's because of accounting standards. It's actually will be less than the figure that was quoted previously.
The second item is that you had indicated that there was going to be a presentation on the new contracting procedures. Did I miss it, or have you done that?
We've done one on procurement when we adopted the procurement policy.
You incorporated some new procedures, okay, contract procedures, and it's very important right now with all the contracting that we're doing. And
Sure.
you said that there was going to be a presentation on it.
We can do another one. Yes, we can do another one.
Okay, thank you. And also, I had mentioned the fact of repurposing the COVID relief federal funds now that we have some relief for our swimming pool situation.
Yeah, we're actually going to bring some proposals to council, just because that by the time we're going to bring it forward, costs have increased. So before we have that discussion, I'd like to have council pick a design, because that could be a little bit more than the original cost estimate that was originally proposed.
Okay, because I would like us to consider setting aside some money, some additional money for our small businesses and our 501c3s, from that, because it was COVID relief.
Certainly, when we bring that to council, I think council will have the opportunity to reallocate any remaining resources.
Okay, and my last one is the status of our Spanish profile. When is that going to occur?
Yeah, well, I'll have to check in with staff, but I do have some actually other good news is starting early next year, we actually may give it a test run at the December meeting where all our communication here on council will be able to be translated into Spanish live. So that's something that we're working on, and we'll bring it to council as a presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Camacho.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to echo a couple of items that council brought up, but before that, I wanted to just piggyback on Councilmember Lada's mentioning about gaming, and, I think that's correct in bringing this forward because, this is what we're talking about, these new pathways. Our students deserve to be presented with new pathways, and this is definitely one of those areas. And I think this is why I believe the workforce development opportunities that we as a city should facilitate, should work towards, and working in partnership with the school district and others. I think this fits right into that. So I thank you for bringing that forward. And, as was mentioned about the Veterans Resource Center, I'm glad that collectively we were able to bring something that's going to be sustainable and it's going to be able to provide the services. But, all in all, once it's it's established, is that we don't forget that at the end of the day, this is for the veterans, and we're doing this for the veterans and making sure that they are getting the services. It's not about us, it's about them, and I'm glad this brought this forward. Spooktacular, again, I have to also mention it, as was stated, it's not just another community event. I mean, we put together some productions. And,
Yep.
and it's just great that our community deserves productions and this caliber of events because that's our community and we shouldn't shortchange them in any which way. So thank you to our Parks Director and entire team for bringing that forward once again. Our events, I mean, we can compete and we have some of the best. And of course, our law enforcement always makes sure that it's safe. Thank you, Captain, for that. And just lastly, I just wanted to mention after the Veterans Resource Center, we did highlight her, close in memory of her some time ago as Miss Helen Molina, and I was asked by the family to speak at the dedication of a bench, one of the benches that we put together to for a family, for them to purchase, adopt, and Helen Molina was recognized. I had the opportunity to recognize her as Volunteer of the Year at the Senior Center, and it's just she was a marvelous lady that was impacted many folks. And I wanted to highlight it because we have a lot of Helen Molinas in the city, and a lot of volunteers that give a lot of time to our community. And I think we need to continue recognizing these folks out there. So that is all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll piggyback on that. In Helen Molina's memory, I got to meet the family, and I was told that she was the first woman catcher on the Go-Getters Senior Softball League. So she has a long history of being very active in Pico Rivera. So the family really missed her, but they have that bench right in front of the senior center now to visit. I wanted to share, I have a couple of items. I wanted to highlight our Veterans Resource Center. We really have done a lot. I know that we did get some criticism in the media saying that, our council in the past didn't, like veterans or have an issue with veterans. But that's not the truth. The truth is every one of us voted yes. Every one of us worked in a different way to push the commission forward. So we now have an established commission. We have, each of us are to appoint a commissioner. I have identified my commissioner, proud to say, her name is Bobby Tanner. She's an Air Force veteran and was a mechanic, airplane mechanic. So she is going to be highlighted, which is a plug for our Veterans Day. She's going to be one of our keynote speakers at Veterans Day. So you'll get a chance to meet her. She's a longtime Pico Rivera resident and a wonderful woman. So I look forward to engaging more with her. And my colleagues as well will be identifying. Please let the city clerk know who you identify. Feel free to interview them, call their references, kind of like a job. That's kind of how I move forward with it. And so each of us gets to pick one commissioner, and that's how the commission will begin. The next item I wanted to highlight is I don't know if residents noticed the lights that are green outside as part of Project Greenlight. And that's in honor of veterans as well. Green meaning the action of moving forward and just invigorating and engaging veterans as resources. So in the past, veterans may have been thought of as disabled or older, but we have a lot of veterans that are in their 40s, like in my age, and they're very active. And that's why we're calling on the commission and a lot of volunteers to come in and engage the community. So all of our veterans are welcome to come Friday, 8:30 a.m., free breakfast. We're going to have a flyover, so come early, and we'll have keynote speakers, and it's always going to be a great event. So everyone is welcome, not just veterans, but family members, community members. I wanted to highlight I was able to attend the WRD 60th anniversary. At that event, the Secretary of the Interior, as well as our Congresswoman Linda Sanchez, presented a $15.4 million check to WRD. And that is significant. And I claim that too, because that facility being in Pico Rivera, that directly benefits us for their Water Smart program, for water replenishment. And those cost savings that they get, they can then provide us grants, Pico Water grants, other cities grants that help us. So it's super important, and it's great. It's such a beautiful facility there. So that was a wonderful event, well attended by a number of dignitaries from all over California, all across the nation, actually, the Secretary of the Interior. So that was a wonderful event. I want to say happy birthday, 110th birthday to the Pio Pico Women's Club, which I will attend tomorrow. They're going to have a little breakfast. And also Thursday is the 247th birthday of the U.S. Marine Corps. I recognize not a lot of the Marines veterans go to our Veterans Day event because they're probably partying too hard on Thursday night for their birthday. So I want to wish them a happy birthday and a happy Veterans Day in advance. And I also want to highlight the virtual City Hall. Again, I'm always plugging this, and it relates to also our bilingual access. The website is actually available in 6 different languages. So if you click the top button, there's not only English and Spanish, but French, and Javier can probably tell us better. I don't even read these other languages, but you can select 6 different languages of our virtual City Hall. So that is very impressive, and we're trying to direct residents to that because they can win prizes as well once they register. So I also had a coffee with the mayor, which we tried to promote the virtual City Hall. And if you have any questions, call and come to City Hall, and Javier will pull out his cell phone and show you how to do it on the smartphone. So thank you so much for that. I do have something under new business that I would like someone, if you are willing to second. I was approached and received an email regarding Beaky's Law. It's a family court awareness, and I would like to propose that we approve a proclamation. Beaky is the 5-year-old boy that was suffocated by his father, and it was related to kind of a forced court order for child visitation. And the mother objected. However, the child was able to go with the father, and the father killed this child. So in recognition of Family Court Month and in recognition of Beaky's death and how it occurred, bring recognition to domestic violence and these court issues, I would like for the city and myself to approve a proclamation in honor of Family Court Month and support of Beaky's Law was proposed by Senator Susan Rubio. And if I can get a second for that one under new business. Thank you. Then that is it for my report. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Thank you. We are adjourned.